going to make some sweet potato pie tomorrow for Thanksgiving.
Is it Thanksgiving? I never know when Thanksgiving is. I just know it's pre-Christmas, but never know when it is.
Yeah, I only know because Cassie always bangs on about it.
All right, she does bang on about it, to be fair.
She's just all really year round as well. Just all like the next day.
Did you know
after
I'm
it's
part
done
American? Oh my God, Thanksgiving. Oh my God.
It's just constant.
It links me to my roots. And
marshmallow and unsavory food. It's so delicious. Weird. No, but
I love the fact that she's nothing like what we just described.
No, she isn't at all. She's quite
really lovely.
Chilled and nice. And so we're making some sweet potato pie for tomorrow, which will be fun. Never made it before.
I thought pumpkin was the
classic.
classic.
Pumpkin pie is the sort of fall/autumn pie of America, but I think Thanksgiving is traditionally either like a sweet potato or a butternut squash kind of vibe pie. But I might be so wrong. I just know that I saw some peeps talking about, I saw a recipe knocking around for a sweet potato pie, and I thought, hey, that sounds fun. And just more readily, I'm not going to buy a pumpkin after Halloween. That just feels weird.
Right.
You know what I mean? Feels something wrong. Something's wrong about that.
I think that's why butternut squash has a larger market share, because I think more people would buy pumpkin if it wasn't for Halloween, and the season for buying pumpkins specifically for Halloween wasn't a thing.
Exactly. You got to feel sorry for pumpkin, really. It's been
because I love pumpkin; it's delicious.
It's
I
really
love butternut
good.
squash as well, but pumpkin doesn't get a look in.
No,
poor guy.
No, it doesn't. It's upsetting, and I really like butternut squash, but you're so right. Like, I would probably enjoy pumpkin just as much, if not more, and there's loads of fun varieties of pumpkin as well. Like, if you go down to a really good like greengrocers, there's loads of different shapes and sizes. But yeah, don't even look at the things, because I'm thinking, it's not Halloween, it's not spook time, so I'm not going to pick you up. Instead, what I am going to do is get myself a butternut squash, as per usual.
And probably either chop it and do it with roast vegetables, or make a soup out of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or attempt to make some sweet potato fries, but they inevitably come out really floppy and disappointing.
Really disappointing.
I've never got a crispy one.
This has been cooking muttons.
Cooking gluttons.
Yeah.
That's good too.
That's our other podcast that definitely doesn't exist.
We do like talking about food and cooking, though. One time Mark came up to Manchester, and we spent like a silly amount of the day creating an unctuous ragu sauce from this proper cookbook that me and Lorna got from Bologna. And we went out and bought like insanely expensive ingredients for it. And it was really good, but it was long just to make a ragu.
I just love that Lorna came back from like a hard day's work and was like, "Hey guys, smelling good," and we were like, "Yeah, another 3 hours. Grab yourself some crisps.
Yeah, enjoy that smell, because that's all you're having."
We timed this badly.
Yeah, we probably got excited playing like Cuphead or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we fire up? Shall we kick off?
Light the stove of chat under the pot of
Like the stove of chat under the
stove
pot.
of chat under the pot.
The pot of good times. The pot of the pot of video games. The pot of pushing buttons. Let's light that stove, baby! Hello, everybody. It's nearly the end of November. Can you bloody believe it? What the hell has happened to this year?
Well, in many respects, in both time, oh my goodness, it's already November, and wow, 2020. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a year.
It's just mad, really. It is. It's sad, it's mad, but I'm also glad it's coming to an end. Who knows what's going to happen at Christmas time? But thank the Lord in the heavens above that we have got computer and Nintendo games to be playing.
What? Why those two
I don't know,
categories?
I don't know. I was just thinking of like what my mum refers to video games as: computer games, Game Boy games. That's the only thing she says. But yeah, thank God we've still got games to play, because otherwise this year would be bathed in hellfire.
Nice. Still chugging away. I've not really been playing a lot of new games. I've jumped ahead. I don't know why I've done that.
That's all right.
But why not?
Just freeform it, mate. Yeah, that's fine. But first of all, hello and welcome to episode 20.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to episode 20 of Pushing Buttons. Thank you for downloading it, and thank you for continue listening to this very humble show that me and Mark love doing. So thank you.
Episode 20, the first of the 20s, and the worst intro we've done so far.
Yeah, you'd think after 20 episodes we'd have this down, but instead it's getting worse.
Yeah, that was a mess. Anyway, yeah, welcome, if you're still here. MVL, we should do that, I guess.
Yeah.
It's still jiggy. What have you got to say about that?
I love the guy. And he's a very smart guy. He's a good writer. He's got a lot of great, got a lot of words to say. I was going to say he's got a lot of great opinions, but some of them aren't great. But he also has a lot of good ones. And I love him as a guy. But I'm starting to get sick of this jingle, even though it's a great one of my favorites we've done. We need a new MVL, listeners. Okay. Now this is my call to arms. Okay. This is my Churchill chatting about the beaches moment, okay? We love Jiggy. He's a good one, but we need to kick him off the throne. I'm talking about a mutiny. I'm talking about a rebellion. I'm talking about treason here, guys, okay? So I need one of you listening right now to tell 5 people about this podcast, okay? And all you need to do is either put it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram that you've done it, or just text me and Mark saying, listen, boys, we've done it. I'm sick. I'm sick to the teeth of hearing this jingle. Jiggy, like I said, I love you, bud, but I don't want to hear it again. So please, somebody dethrone him.
But I love being a viewer. It's sick. Please don't dethrone me. It's great up here.
Jiggy, you stink, man. You stink. You smell of mouldy old lemons.
I don't stink. I smell quite nice, actually.
By the way, if anyone, everyone who is listening, Jiggy is not either South African or from New Zealand or any of those accents. We just think that he sounds like that.
That's what, in our heads, the caricature of Jiggy is basically the rock guy from Thor Ragnarok.
Korg. Yeah,
Korg.
He's basically Korg. And in actual fact, he grew up in the same town as you, Mark, so he should talk like you.
Oh, you did? Korg?
No, Jiggy.
It's a fictional character. Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
So yeah, I apologise for that rant, everybody. But I want to write a new jingle because I enjoy doing it. It's good fun, and 2, we've got to get a new MVL, haven't we?
Yeah. But until then, here's that jingle that we deep down we love, but we're equally, as much as we love it, we're equally sick of it.
1, 2, 3.
Jiggy, just get jetty. I would place a betty. Could beat you in any race.
Yep, that's correct.
Jiggy, just get jetty. Games he's finished plenty, and he'll wipe that smile off your face. Wipe that smile off your face.
Jobsy Jetty, everybody.
Nah. Actually, I do really like it. It's a good jingle, so...
It's all right.
Joking. Please get rid of him, Mark. You tried saying it before, but we realised we'd done a terrible job of the intro. You tried saying it. What have you been playing this week? You said you haven't been doing much new.
Not really. Loads of Risk of Rain because we're just a few of my friends have gotten really back into it. I played a lot of it previously when I first bought it, so it was kind of like, I've done a lot of this, but I'm back on the train again and just enjoying cycling around the Risk of Rain 2 landscape. It's a lot of fun.
Risk of Train. Back on the train of rain. I need to give it a try because my brother actually told me that he loved the first one and he's playing a lot of the second one. So I really need to. I need to give it a good crack. I probably asked you this before, but do you know if is it only on Steam currently?
I think it's only on Steam. Pardon the yawn. I think it's only on Steam, as far as I'm aware. But I'll check. It's on Switch.
Is it on Switch?
Yeah, they're both on Switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's great. There's loads of achievements to unlock and like different loadouts for all the characters and stuff. So because I've already got all the characters, I'm kind of slowly chopping away at all these other achievements.
Wait, it's got characters in it.
Well, as in mercenaries that you play as.
Mark, you know I love characters.
I mean, they don't talk.
Oh.
If you want some like deep personality, you're not going to get it. There's swordman, mage woman, robot. Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't run deep.
So they don't have witty
witticisms.
They don't have witty quips.
Witty quips. They don't. I'm afraid they don't talk.
Okay, that's fine. You know, I can handle that. Okay,
Apologies for that, but it wasn't up to me. The other thing is Valorant. Yeah, just more of that. It's fine. It's good. Just
serviceable.
Serviceable. Just dipping in and out occasionally.
Have you played any more with Gary or Geordie from VGC?
I haven't actually. I've not seen them online an awful lot actually. Don't know. So, but no, is the answer to that.
Probably blocked you.
Yeah. The next thing is Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
Oh, Mark, if I wanted to know your opinions of mainly the demo section of that game, I could go and watch an awesome video on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you could at pushing buttons /YouTube. That doesn't work. It's the other way around.
No, yeah. So now you've got the full game. Great stuff. You've forked out the money for it. What have your opinions changed, or is it more of what you wanted?
It is more of what I wanted, but also more camera issues than in the demo.
Oh no.
Which is fun because of some of the way the characters work and interact sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it location based, or is it more the move sets of certain characters make the camera behave in funny ways?
It's the last thing you said. It's the move sets of certain characters that make the camera behave in certain ways. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Which is, again, I mean, I said this in the video that you can find at youtube.com/sweetbaby that we...
Sweet baby. Oh, stop giving traffic to Sweet Baby.
I've forgotten my train of thought now. I said that it will bother more people than some.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, it's gone all over the place and then it's back. I can live with it. I'm annoyed that it's more apparent in the final version of the game than it was in the demo. But then again, they couldn't stick every character in the demo. So it's kind of like, yes, fair enough. It's not really, it's not like they were trying to pull the wool over your eyes. It just happens. In terms of performance, Switch performance, it's kind of fine. Like, there's only really slowdown where you use like a Sheikah Slate, a million bombs go off, and like it explodes a bunch of barrels and takes a structure down with it, and the game just goes, whoa, hang on a minute, and like just like lags slightly. But it's only in those big, absolutely mental moments where that really happens, and there's genuinely a lot on screen. So overall performance is good. Camera can be really bad. Gameplay wise, yeah, it's exactly what I wanted. I've unlocked all like the sort of 4 warriors of the different sort of zones, if you like, and they're all good fun.
We're talking Mifa, we're talking Rivali, we're talking Daruk, and we're talking, I can't remember the last one.
Urbosa. Yeah.
Urbosa.
Yeah, they as I said, they all, add different movesets to the games, and they all use the Sheikah Slate differently. So there's just loads of like different variations, and it's great fun. It's really good so far.
Oh, good, man.
So yeah, I'll update you more on story vibes later because I'm doing a lot of side stuff at the moment.
Okay, yeah, I'm hugely interested in it, but I'm just playing too many like big games that I just don't have the sort of. It's difficult to think about jumping into a genre of games that I've never really been interested in, which is the sort of Warriors style games. But the Breath of the Wild element is a huge draw. And I did enjoy the demo when I played it.
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoyed the demo, I don't know if you'd enjoy a full game of it. If I'm honest, just because it's not your thing, and like I respect that. I wonder if the charm of Breath of the Wild is enough for someone who just doesn't play Warriors games is enough. And I think it would largely depend on the story being really strong and kind of like sucking you back into that world.
Yeah.
And right now at the moment, I've just kind of gathered the heroes, and I've not really. There's intrigue, but there's not like this big. Ooh, I'm in the prequel. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling of, oh, how did this all happen? Where's this going? I've not really hit that point, and I'm hoping it will. But I'm just not convinced that by the time you've sort of gotten through the first like chapter, got on all the heroes, and then start getting into the game, I think you just go, yes, more pressing Y over and over again. Like, I just don't think it's really going to be satisfying for you necessarily.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was somebody just talking about new games that they've been playing recently, and they said that they went from playing the new Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PS5 to playing that on the Switch, and just being like, oh damn, like I've been spoiled by like 4K and like new resolution and like 60 frames up to 120 that. Now going and playing a Switch game is pretty rough. So it is interesting in considering what we talked about on that a couple of episodes back about what we would want from a new Switch. Like, now that next gen is out, is it genuinely part of Nintendo's thinking that people are going to be experiencing that sort of juxtaposition between next gen and then going play something on Switch and being like, eesh.
I mean, the Switch does not feel current gen is the issue I always have every time I pick it up.
It never has had it, I suppose.
Well, when you first got it, it was like, this is sick. This is a new thing. This is new vibe. But like for the past, like, I'd say year and a half, I might be being kind there, but year and a half, we'll say, it's just felt like, what's going on with Switch? Why is this has had no updates?
Yeah,
so it's a bit weird.
And I guess it's like, why in God's name would, unless it's your only console, of course, why would anyone play a third-party game on the Switch? Or like, why would a company now want to publish a game on the Switch? Because like, it's just going to be such a worse version, unless it's like a remaster of an old game, like for example, an old Nintendo game, or this is a totally random thing to say, but if they did like, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid 1 remaster, like you could put that on Switch because it won't be that taxing. But like, it's just, it is now at that point with the Switch where it's kind of like, it's going to be awesome to play indie games and like Nintendo first party title that have that Nintendo aesthetic, the vibrant, the Breath of the Wild style that is slightly cartoony. That really works. But as soon as you play something like one of these new titles, say if it was, it's not going to happen, but something like Cyberpunk, it would just be awful. It just wouldn't work.
They would have to build a fresh version that would come out in 7 years just to make like anything viable.
I'm so glad they didn't even think about adding that to the list of places that I mean, they already had to make like 7 different versions of it, didn't they?
We're now developing for 10 versions. Oh my God.
But anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Glad you're enjoying it, dude.
Enjoying it though. So that's kind of the main thing. I've already used both my Nintendo tickets. Because you said you were going to use one on this and then one next year. What was the other one you used? I have pre-ordered Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. I just dumped it because
you did mention that actually. Yeah,
you can already pre-order it, which is stupid because like it's not out for like 3 months. But I was just like, I have this ticket. I don't want to forget to use this ticket.
Yeah,
I mean, I probably wouldn't, but like, I'll just throw it on there and it's already, it'll preload. And that'll remind me that the game's coming out. Oh, look, that's popped up on my
that's
UI
really good.
That hasn't changed for 6 years. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart to do that because Nintendo will probably only release it for like a week and then they'll take it off the store because that's how they're doing things these days. But that's great, man. I would be really interested in playing that because I missed out on it the first time around and I I love Mario games, traditional Mario games. So yeah, that's a good shout.
While we're ratting on Nintendo, very briefly before we talk about what you're playing, why are they releasing these sort of, it's like pre-release kind of feeling Switch console vibes on YouTube, where it's just like Nintendo Switch, you're away, and it's like different people playing games.
So they're also doing well. It's for Christmas, surely.
But it's really like it feels like all the adverts are the adverts that came up before the Switch was out.
Yeah,
like, it's all the sort of like, it's really weird. And like one of them had Brie Larson in, and all the comments are just like, what?
Yeah,
what's going on?
It's them building up hype for Black Friday and Christmas. But you're right, they do have the feel of, this is a new console and it's coming out now, which in a lot of ways Nintendo hasn't changed anything about it since day one. So it essentially is
apart from the battery.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could literally put the same adverts out from the first place and it wouldn't have changed. But yeah, it's weird. Like, the annoying thing about Nintendo is it's still like the best selling console on a monthly basis, because people are still discovering it and still wanting to try it out. And it's a really good entry level console for people who are slightly more casual gamers. So like, it will sell them consoles because there are still people that want it. But as people who are more, you know, I guess hardcore gamers like me and you, like, it is just baffling. It's like, wait, what are they doing over there? Like, what? Yeah, you're right. The Brie Larson thing, and there's that actress. I think it's her pronounced like Aquafina. I think she's a British actress. Like, just,
Aquamarina from
yeah, that's the one.
Stingray. Yeah.
Yes, from Stingray. Yeah, very, very weird. I've seen that because I subscribe to the Nintendo channel on YouTube. Like,
as do I.
Every day, like 3 videos just being peppered of people having fun with their Switches.
Yeah, and it's not what I want to see. I don't want to see fake fun.
No.
Like fake living rooms, fake people. And by that I mean, they're not, by fake people, I mean, obviously they're not androids. I mean, they are pretending to play Switch, pretending in their fake living room to have fun, pretending to be families. It just makes me sick. And like, why? Like, why YouTube? Put it on YouTube on your channel as well.
Yeah,
like,
put it on the TV.
Just slap it on the TV where I don't watch it, because I don't watch television.
I assume it is they're doing it now and didn't do this sort of thing last year because it's like, right, this is our final push for this console because we're potentially going to be doing a new one next year or whatever.
That's what it is. You're right. It's the last push.
Let's sell all of our stock that we've got out there because we're going to be ditching it in April or whenever next year. So, but yeah, they are just cringy as heck, aren't they? These ads.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's so
I really
fake.
don't like it. Right,
Mark,
apologies for that tangent. What have you been playing this week?
That's great. I've been carrying on a little bit with the Titanfall 2 story, enjoying that and kind of eking it out and not trying not to finish it too quickly because it's good and I want to keep that going. Done a little bit more Tetris Effect and Peggle as well. They're good games to be like, oh, I've got 20 minutes. Just jump on that real quick. Peggle. But the main one, man, is just an excellent JRPG called Final Fantasy VIII, which recently came on Xbox Game Pass. One of the best Final Fantasy selling Final Fantasy games of all time. Just brilliant.
I think you've conflated 7 and 10 there, which are the best selling of all time. But apart from that,
it's in the top. It's in the top 10, I believe.
They're all in the top 10. There's like 10 of them, you Burke.
No, it's definitely in that top 10 somewhere. So
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's. I love it. I love Final Fantasy. I think the reason why I'm enjoying it is because I have 7 on Game Pass as well, but I've just played 7 too much. Especially like the first 2 hours of Final Fantasy 7, I've played an insane amount, and I was like, I don't have the energy to get over that. And also just the little tiny little weird boxy bodies that they have. I'm just like, that's too much. So dipped into 8, started it, freaking love it. Love the really dumb junction system and how intricate it is. I love playing the card game, Triple Triad, collecting the cards. I'm already an ace at it and collected some really good ones. Just love it, man. I think it's less about Final Fantasy VIII, and I just love old turn-based Final Fantasy games. I just love them so much.
Yeah, they are satisfying, and they tickle a little like old flame in like the
yeah, and just
it
like
lights that little fire.
Just like
back when you were a kid, yeah.
Exactly, and you get it's a similar thing that like Pokemon does. It's like first time like leveling up a character to like take their HP over 1,000, and it's like, okay, we're cooking here, we're going, and then like getting a GF up to doing a summon, but they're called GFs in 8. Getting to do like Guardian Forces, I believe it stands for. Getting them to do like up to 9,999 damage, just great, just things like that. And I just love how emo the characters are. This Squall Lionheart.
Everything you've said about 8 is like everything I hate about 8. Like literally everything you've listed, I can't stand. But how can I be annoyed that it brings you, my good friend, joy?
Yeah.
There are people that like 8. I have another. I have a couple of friends that have like 9 or 10 as their favorite. Couple that have 7 because obviously it's the classic, and I think I have just you and another old friend that would count 8 as their top. But like,
it's not my top. Sorry, it's not my top.
Is it not?
Don't get me wrong.
7's your top, isn't it?
I would go 7, 10, then 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I just love it. As in, I love Final Fantasy games. So,
and how can I dispute that?
Yeah, I also have given 9 a good crack, but just didn't really like the vibe of it. But didn't dislike the gameplay, but it wasn't my aesthetic and vibe.
I think that's because I remember when I tried it the first time, I was like, this is weird. Because like 7 and 8 were very different. I never really got on with 8, but obviously it was different again. And then my mate was like, no, you have to try this. Like gave me a copy, and I was like, okay, and like he would come over and like gave it a good shot and was just like, this is what I want. But I agree, the aesthetic is like, especially at first glance, it also makes it more difficult when it's an old game. I really want to play the remake of Final Fantasy 7 because I never completed the original 7, but I can't go back to it because of just exactly what you just said. The blockiness is just too much. Like it's just the music and the sound effects would be the kind of thing that would just like squeeze me through the experience because it's so evocative. But it's there is a point where you look at something and go, this is too old. I can't do this. Whereas
totally.
8 and 9 are aesthetically more pleasing to look at in terms of graphical fidelity and style. But again, if you're coming to like one of those games new, as in you never played them when you were young, you look at them and go, what the heck is this? And probably find it quite difficult to get into. It's kind of like old
massively.
dog, new tricks type thing. Like if I'd never played 8 and you handed me 8, I'd be like assuming I knew nothing about it. I'd probably be like, I can't really be bothered with this. It's quite old.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I hear that.
A lot of what propels us through old games a lot of the time is the nostalgia of it, or the fact that the game is actually legitimately good.
Just that little menu sound. They're like, ding, ding.
And the startup music for any Final Fantasy game, even 8 would probably
it's
bring
so
a
good.
small tear down my cheek.
Yeah, incredible. So that's what I've been playing, Final Fantasy 8, baby. But shall we move on to some news?
Yeah, it's quite shabby news this week.
We had to do a little bit of like scraping of the barrel, really.
So
there's like loads of stuff going on, but none of it's really that great or important. It's all just like you briefly said before we started, it's stuff like people like they're fixing bugs for the new consoles, there's like updates on sales and all that sort of stuff, but nothing that exciting. But we've found some stuff.
We found a couple of like absolute tiny morsels that probably aren't even that delicious, but we'll serve them to you anyway. First one is AMD released their new 6000 series GPUs. Then the benchmarks are out. I think I mentioned this previously. Basically, they're looking good. They're looking pretty strong. They lack a lot of the features that NVIDIA's cards have, but in general, performance is pretty good. However, the launch is an absolute disaster and touted to be actually even worse than the NVIDIA 3000 series launch.
Oh, damn.
With literally no cards available. And this is after AMD basically pointed at NVIDIA and went, that's not how you do it, you idiots. Our launch is going to be perfect. And now it's worse. So they've made themselves look like morons by not just keeping their mouth shut or just saying the truth and saying, you know what? We're not going to have that many cards. It's going to be really limited, but we're going to release anyway. And like people would have gone, okay, we know what to expect. But instead, they decided to point fingers and then make themselves look like mugs. But it's the same story for everything, isn't it? There are no PS5s, there are no Xboxes, there's no NVIDIA 3000 series or AMD 6000 series.
It's been made worse by COVID because everyone's just sat there at their computers and laptops just waiting for anything that will bring them joy. So I think it's been a tough time in that, there's people like that, and also COVID has made it more difficult for production and making things happen. So it's sort of the worst of all worlds, really.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Yeah, there was another CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk Nightwire, which obviously is their little series, kind of documentary style thing, sort of talking about the production of the game and what to look forward to in the game. I think it was actually the last one.
There's been quite a few. We've not really mentioned them because honestly, we've not really watched them. Well, I haven't.
No, well, I watched bits of this last one sort of while I was cooking. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where I don't really want to discover too much about the game, but I'm also quite interested in how they go about making the decisions and that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's available on YouTube if people want to go out and watch it. And I believe they showed they've showed gameplay of the sort of Xbox One versus the Xbox Series X version, and I think they've just done the same for the PS4 versus PS5 version as well, sort of highlighting the differences in fidelity and all that sort of thing. So that was all part of it. I can't remember if there was much big stuff in there, but just while we're on Cyberpunk, there's apparently the game has been leaked to some PS4 copies have been leaked, which is interesting, and people already have it in their hands. So apparently some spoilers might be knocking around, so be careful if anybody is looking for it. But while we're on Cyberpunk as well, apparently a Q&A tester for the game has put in over 175 hours of gameplay into one stealth playthrough of the game, and says there's still plenty more to do in terms of quests, etc., which is obviously totally mad. But
also probably due to the slower pace of gameplay when you're playing it in stealth.
Exactly. So there's a combination of things that they're playing it in stealth mode, so that's going to take longer, and probably they'll have more failures if they're trying to be stealthy. And also, if they're a Q&A tester, they're literally testing it for bugs, so they're going to be trying every possible option to make sure that things are broken. So take it with a pinch of salt, but it's going to be a big game. I think they've said that the main, if you want to just do the main storyline, it could be about 50 to 60 hours, which is obviously still huge, but they're actually saying you can complete the storyline quicker than you could complete The Witcher 3, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's a slightly smaller map. I think it's because they wanted to, pardon me, there's a lot more open space in The Witcher, what with it being the sort of not medieval, but you know what I mean, that sort of fantasy landscape. Yeah. Whereas it was like, if we tried to do the same size, but with like cities, it would be a lot more stress to like fill that out population wise, make it believable, but also make everything like inhabited and like you can go in and out of buildings. It would have been so much more, so it was easier and sort of more compelling to slightly make it smaller and make everything like believable and more compact in that way. Yeah. But I didn't realise the story was shorter. But that doesn't bother me. It depends whether they mean base story of The Witcher or the DLC at the end as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. But yeah,
that's still 50, 60 hours or whatever, I guess. That's a lot. Yeah,
exactly. So it's still a huge game by all standards. And yeah, I'm just well excited. I mean, playing Final Fantasy VIII is sort of giving me that itch at the moment. Just jumping into a huge world where it feels like there's just no end to what you can be doing. I'm just all in for that sort of game, especially in the winter when you can't go out. You just want to sit in and get cozy and play on computer games. So it's good to hear that it's a big old fella. Okay, I'm scrolling back up to another. Oh, this is another techie bit for you to read, Mark, I think.
Yeah, super quick one. So I mentioned last week that that Apple were launching their sort of M1, which is their brand new silicon, their own chips based on ARM architecture CPUs. Basically, the reviews are looking really positive. So I don't know whether that necessarily means you should immediately go out and buy a new MacBook or Mac Mini, apologies. But they're looking like they're running well. They're decent. They're all right. They're doing okay. So if you desperately need to update your 2000 and 14 Mac Mini, maybe go ahead with that if you had plans to do that anyway.
I don't need to, Mark, but if someone wants to buy me one, I wouldn't say no.
Fair play.
In that sort of camp, I reckon I am. Next up, I mentioned console sales before. This is sort of pertaining to that. Both Sony and Xbox are celebrating apparently their most successful console launches in history. So kudos to them. Yeah, apparently so.
But there aren't any available.
Well, that's because on both sides, they have both sold every single consoles that they manufactured. So there was a limited supply, but they sold them all. That's like saying
we've made 10 and they all sold. Best launch.
It is a bit like that, but it's as simple as So apparently, on both sides, the PS5 and the Xbox One and the PS4, they each sold 1 million consoles on their first day of launch. But apparently, on both sides, they have massively excelled that. So we know that they've both sold more than 1 million on day one, but neither of them have actually released the figures for exactly how many they've sold. But we know they both sold more than 1 million on day one. So well done to them for being good, I suppose, especially in the middle of a pandemic. It just turns out that people still love buying new things, regardless. It is sort of tempered by the fact that... as with everything in life, there are some arseholes out there buying up stock and selling things for more than they should be sold for. People do it with concert tickets. People do it with cool new sneakers and all of that sort of stuff. But especially on the PS5 side, there's a load of scalpers out there buying up stock. I think it was something like in America they'd found one particular site or sort of seller that had bought 4,500 PS5s.
Wow.
And was selling them on for profit. It's just like, I mean, it's profiteering. They're going to make some money out of it, but it's putting a lot of people out, or putting the consoles out of reach for a lot of people that would otherwise have one for Christmas. So it's sad, but it's going to happen in any sort of commercial market.
If I had the balls and the know-how to do that, I would literally sell them all on for like £5 more. So like I'm making profit, but I'm not like ripping people off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do it in a way that's like, lol. Do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do it, but there you go.
I mean, you'd have to get it. The thing that fascinates me is how they're able to ensure that they get that much stock, especially when the pre-orders are that mad. They must have some kind of hack that allows them to ensure that.
You just set up like instant like buy macros and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I can't code.
Yeah, it will be bots. It'll be bots.
It's mad. I have to say though, whilst we're on the subject of the PS5, I've been watching a playthrough of Demon's Souls. It's making me want a PS5 so bad.
Yeah, man.
Like so bad. Like I love Dark Souls so much, and it looks so good.
It does look incredible, doesn't it?
It's the first time in 2 or 3 generations where I've looked at a game and actually thought this genuinely looks amazing.
It looks so good. Yeah, I've been doing the same. It's hard because exactly the same with me. I've been looking at it and thinking, oh man, maybe I need a PS5. But at the same time, like just knowing that it's an old PS3 game at its heart is making me feel like, but maybe I'll just wait for Dark Souls 4 or whatever is next, Elden Ring or whatever, and I'll actually get more out of that. Just because I know it's old gameplay.
Well, I mean, it's had a lot of quality of life things. I mean, the thing is it's built from like the ground up, obviously.
Yes,
but, I mean, you get out of it whatever you get out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to feel any less because the game is old necessarily.
Yes, but I guess what I mean is how much more will I get out of it than going back and playing Dark Souls Remastered? In terms of, obviously, it's beautiful.
You've played it before.
Yeah.
And it's not as pretty. But I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that.
What
can answer what you'd get out of it.
Worthwhile getting the console for, I suppose. And I'm juggling that.
The fact that it's making me salivate tells me that I want to.
He's absolutely dripping.
That tells me that I would get something out of it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
but I think I'm just vibing that next gen experience, and I want to hear that controller buzzing and see what that's like and all that good stuff.
Feel that haptic feedback.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not buying one. So anyway,
That's all right.
Twitter news
Twitter.
from the Twitterverse.
Yeah,
From Nibble or Nibble.
Yeah, I
Probably
don't know.
Nibble.
I think it's Nibble, yeah.
With a screenshot of a design. The rumour is a new patent uncovered by Let's Go Digital indicates that we're on PlayStation again, PSVR headset for PlayStation 5 is in development. Surprise, surprise. This one seems to feature, this is quite exciting actually, I think, haptic feedback, LED lighting and sensors that recognise if the headset is properly worn and more. We had a lovely chat with the guys from VGC about all VR stuff, VR.
We did.
Because we wanted to chat about that because they have a large conglomerate of friends and colleagues who are all PC gamers and all own VR headsets. An experience that neither Bellum or myself have even tried. So it was interesting to sort of deep dive into that topic a bit. PSVR has been out for a little while now, a few years on the PlayStation 4. And it's from what I hear, it's actually a pretty decent sort of entry level VR headset in terms of console gaming. There's been no retort from Microsoft yet, but I wonder if they'll partner with Oculus or something in the future. We're yet to see.
They've kind of said they're not really that interested yet.
Okay.
But it might happen if
It could happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced there are actually a lot of PSVR games that came out for the PlayStation 4. I know there was Iron Man and Beat Saber and a few other bits.
There was Batman. Obviously Half-Life Alyx didn't. That was exclusive to Oculus. Nothing. I wouldn't say nothing worth getting worth getting a PlayStation to be able to play VR for, I suppose is what I mean.
Specifically a PlayStation 4 to be able to play
Yeah,
I agree. But however, this sort of haptic feedback and all these other little features is actually quite exciting because I think it's going to push because Sony are they're obviously doing it fairly slowly, the implementation of sort of VR as a thing. We should invest in this, in that sort of forward thinking. But I think if they're going to add, because people are really loving the new DualSense, if they're going to add these kind of features to a VR setup, I think that's going to push the sort of PC developers, so Oculus and the Valve Index, to like try and up their game with that sort of thing, because they're probably so focused on the quality of the headset itself, the lenses, and haven't thought about all these other like interactable features yet. Do you know what I mean?
It's one of those things where like if it's not done well, it could just be a bit annoying or a little bit gimmicky. But you know, if it feels like you're actually getting punched in the head, it would be quite be impressive. Can you imagine that, playing like Tekken in VR and you actually get bruised by your VR headset?
I'm well up for that. That sounds great.
No, it is exciting, and they're definitely very interested in VR, and there are a lot of people sort of speculating about when are they gonna do a PSVR 2? What's it gonna look like? And some people saying, it doesn't really look like they've been that bothered about making it work on the PS5 yet. But this is, it's only a rumor, obviously, but it looks it looks like things are gonna happen. So and like you said, as two people who haven't experienced VR, as you know, there's a financial boundary as well as like specs and whatever it is for PC. Potentially going down a console route might be a little bit more realistic for us. So it'd be we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for more about this. For sure. Last little morsel for you. I'm sure some of you might have seen it if you're into watching video game trailers, etc. There's been an announcement by IO Interactive that they are working on a James Bond game, and they will be publishing it themselves. So people like Activision or EA or Ubisoft, none of them are involved. They're going to be publishing it themselves, and the only people that they have to answer to are MGM Studios, who of course own the rights to James Bond. So far it's just called Project 007. and there's no more info on it yet other than a little teaser video. But it is worth pointing out that IO Interactive are the people behind the new trilogy of Hitman games, which is really the only sort of bastion of stealth gameplay out there. There aren't really many other games these days doing good, strong stealth gameplay, and I've heard a lot of good things about these new Hitman games. So it could be a match made in heaven, really, this IO Interactive working on Project 007. What do you reckon?
When I first heard the news, my mind immediately just went back to GoldenEye, Nightfire, Agent Under Fire, which I think are actually and Tomorrow Never Dies on PlayStation 1, if anybody remembers that.
Yeah.
Those 4 games for me are like the Bond games.
Yeah.
And they were, for completely different reasons, all 4 of them, a lot of fun and just very evocative of a different time in filmmaking, to be honest with you, because obviously they were based on the older films. Bond has had a big change in the more recent ones. It's grittier. I do genuinely think, maybe this is controversial, I don't know, I think Casino Royale is probably the best Bond film, followed by The Living Daylights, followed by Goldfinger.
Oh wow! Okay, this could open a whole kettle of worms. We need to have a Bond debate.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that. But I do think that the other, what's his name?
Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig.
Yeah, the other Daniel Craig films I don't like at all. Genuinely, I don't like them at all. I don't think they're that great at all. Thought Skyfall was boring as heck and had one of the worst Bond themes I've ever heard in my life.
Mate, it can't be worse than the Sam Smith one, which was dull as dishwater.
No. So you're right. That's the one. That is the worst. What film's that?
Writings on the wall.
What film is it?
That's the
Spectre.
Yeah, Spectre.
Okay, that's the one. Skyfall is actually really good. Not the film. The film's shit. But the
Adele
theme,
one. Let the sky fall.
Sorry. So the theme tune was great, but the film was terrible.
Okay,
anyway,
cool. We got there.
So when I heard there was a new Bond game, Bond game coming out,
yeah,
it was very evocative of all those different thoughts like going into my head at once, and I was like, I could be really up for a Bond game. This is really exciting. Like, as in, yes, I want to play a Bond game again. How long has it been?
Yeah.
And then I thought back, and I was like, PS2. I don't think I've played a Bond game since PS2. So I'm just really up for that as a vibe.
It will be really interesting because obviously pretty much all of the previous James Bond games have sort of been a, on rails first person shooter, get from A to B, shoot everyone. It's been that sort of thing. But with it being...
The reason I brought up all those films is what I don't want is it to be a super serious, gritty, just action thing.
Right,
I also
yes.
don't want it to be a clone of Hitman.
Yeah.
As in, they're great games. Hitman's great. But I don't want either of those things to take over how fun a Bond game can be.
Yeah, I would have... I mean, yeah, I agree. I'd love to have that sort of old school campy element on it, that it doesn't take it too seriously and it's got the fun, silly gadgets and all of that sort of stuff. I would like that. And the Hitman games traditionally, and the new ones do seem to, always have a good sense of humor just because of the stupid stuff that you can do to kill people. So that sort of bodes well. But yeah, I'll just be interested to see if they do take a similar approach with a sort of more, third person, you can choose the way to finish a level sort of vibe, or it will be like the previous games. Like I said, get from A to B, it's a first person shooter, kill people easily along the route. You've got all this awesome arsenal of weapons. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. But yeah, you wouldn't think they're just going to do... They're just going to reskin Hitman, but call it a James Bond game. They're going to do something different with it. Otherwise, people won't be happy. But I think it is a positive thing that they don't have a studio like Ubisoft, Activision, EA, whoever it is, to answer to. They have a little bit more... The only people they have to answer to are the people that own the rights to James Bond.
I believe it's the people that go... Is that right?
That's a lion, is it?
Yeah, something like that, right?
Sound like a lion, like sucking on a teat, or something like that. Yeah, and also it'll be interesting to see if they think, we've got to make our Bond look like whoever the new James Bond is, or if it's Daniel Craig, or if they'll think, no, we're just going to make a generic-looking person. Who knows? Or you could design your own Bond. That might even happen.
James Bob. From Covent Garden, London. It's just a bloke.
Jim Barnes. So very interesting stuff, exciting stuff. Looking forward to hearing more about that.
Up for it.
Up for it. Now, news is done. Pop that in a little brown paper bag and chuck it in the recycling. Because we're going to move on to a little juicy topic now, aren't we, Marcus?
Have you heard of a series called Sherlock Holmes on BBC One, I believe?
Isn't it just Sherlock?
Correct. But that's not what we're talking about. Have you heard of Mass Effect?
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah, okay. You properly knocked me for six there. I thought we were going to start talking about Benedict Cumberbatch. But no, we're going to talk about Mass Effect instead. Yes, I'm well up for talking about that series of popular games.
How do you feel about Mass Effect? We had a chat about the trilogy remaster coming in.
We did, yeah.
I'm annoyed that there's no multiplayer. Actually, on that subject, I've had two people say, so those two people are my friend Luke, who was like, oh, I'm annoyed that they're not doing it. I also, because he's a PC gamer, he was like, I also don't know whether I need to buy this remaster because I can play the games, which is exactly the point I made last week. And Jiggy has listened to the episode and came back and went, oh, just to let you know, I also put many hours into the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
There you go.
And would love it to be back. So I'm not the only one out there. There must be many more people out there in the wild that are going to be missing this and demanding it.
Yeah.
And I hope so.
I can't, again, I didn't play the multiplayer. I don't know why I didn't, but I just didn't play it. I don't know when do you know what year it came out? I wonder if
Mass
it's
Effect
just
3.
Yeah, just wondering if it might have been after like my friends like sort of stopped playing on Xbox. I'm not sure, but
it was 2012.
Yeah, so I actually, it's probably because I was at the end of uni and I wasn't gaming as much. But yeah, I didn't play the multiplayer, so I can't wait for it. I can't wait to jump back into those games. I love Mass Effect. We both love Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
Let's
obviously,
just put it out there.
Yeah,
we love Mass Effect.
Let's spread it
like butter on toast. Flood the cowling.
Speaking of, do you see that Nigella Lawson, she butters her toast as soon as it's come out of the toaster so it melts in. She then lets it cool down and to almost cold, then puts another layer of butter on that doesn't melt in, and then puts some sea salt on top and eats it.
Okay. I don't really have a response to that. The thing that annoys me is the fact that the toast is cold.
The internet was going wild. Yeah, so the cold toast is an issue, definitely.
But I do like the idea of the two textures going on and a little bit of sea salt. But there's already salt in butter, so it would be very salty. It'd be a very salty bit of cold toast.
It might be unsalted butter. I didn't check that, Mark.
Okay. But it just sounds to me like a very salty, cold bit of toast that I don't want to eat.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd like her to do it for me, and then I'll assess because I'd probably do it wrong.
I'd like her to do it for me.
So we thought after our sort of brief chat about Mass Effect last week, and we talked about how yes, there is a new Mass Effect title being worked on by a group of veteran game developers. So we thought we'd have a little bit of a chat about what would our dream new Mass Effect title be like? What do they need to go and fix? When's it going to be set? What's the story? Are we forgetting that Andromeda ever happened? All of these things, we're going to have a little chatette about it and sort of both present our cases as to what we would like it to be like. So I thought, Mark, we could. Do you want to go back and forth, or do you want to just lay your case out first?
Why don't we lay them out? I'll set up the first wheel to get this cart rolling.
Okay.
You then get the second wheel going, and we'll make a Venn diagram in the middle where we end up with the perfect game.
It's a two-wheeled cart.
It's a two-wheeled bicycle cart of Mass Effect perfection.
It's got big, thick handlebars.
Yeah. So hang on. I'm not going any further with this.
You've got to have big hands to ride this dirty bike.
Right. Why is it dirty?
I don't know. It's BMX. Right, you go first.
It's gone from a cart to a BMX. Okay. Right. So, Mass Effect 3, obviously, big issues to do with story. It kind of just ignored a lot of the sort of things they were building up in Mass Effect 2, and sort of it never like tied a lot of threads. It also went into a weird space Jesus thing that made no sense. It was all just very odd and unsatisfying. However, a lot of the positives about 3 were primarily in the gameplay and, of course, the continuation of the world and the characters and all that sort of good stuff. Also, they introduced more races that, again, just were equally as believable as the ones in Mass Effect 2. One thing I always praised Mass Effect for was its immediate ability to world build and make you believe in everything that was in that universe. There obviously, it being a sort of RPG chatty game, there was obviously what's the word?
Expectations?
When you chat about
exposition,
there's a lot of that's the one. I want to say expedition, which is exploration, which is the wrong word.
Going up a hill. No, we don't want that.
Anyway, a lot of that going on, but they always did it in short bursts and very quickly, so you could learn about all the different races and kind of take in what they were about and how they vaguely functioned. It was just very quick to do that and kind of settle you in.
Yeah. Am I allowed to just kind of chat to you while you're doing this? Is that an okay thing to do?
Please.
Okay, I'm going to chat now. So I hugely agree with that. And also coming off the back of KOTOR 1 and 2 and absolutely nailing the Star Wars world. It's incredible, really, that they were able to do that, considering they worked on Star Wars and were so deep into that space aesthetic. To then be able to so successfully world build this totally new universe. And also, Star Wars has so many races and different alien creatures. For them to just nail totally new looking aliens and their races, and how each race has like a really believable sort of, I suppose the only word I can think of is like stereotype to it. Like each race behaves in certain ways, and it's like, oh, they're going to act like that because they're a such and such. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What's the big chunky boys that like Rex is part of? I can't.
Krogan.
Is it Krogan? Yeah, Krogan. Just like, if you meet one of them, it's like, I know what he's going to be like. He's a Krogan, which in a way is a bit racist, but the game like does it so well that you just believe it. And but
it's good that it does that, because if you think, oh, maybe in this universe that would be racist, it means you believe it.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of a testament to how because there are stereotypes within the game that, oh, well, he's this, he's da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And you do think that, well, come on, surely maybe he's an all right guy. Come on, give the guy a chance. But it's actually, he's a big giant frog lizard. It doesn't exist. But you still believe it.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
So really just to build on your point, the fact that they, after doing 2 games set in the Star Wars universe, they were able to do a totally new sci-fi RPG game, but not make it look Star Warsy in any way.
True. One thing I would say, if you go play KOTOR and then go straight into Mass Effect 1, the veins are there in terms of the way the game looks visually, but not in terms of design, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because obviously they were coming straight off the back of it. But to get its own identity, you're so right, straight off the back of such a big IP is impressive. That's the sort of where we were at when Andromeda. When they were sort of saying we're making a new Mass Effect game, it was like cool, and then they were like it's going to be 100 years in the future. So the thing about that is that I was kind of like, okay, cool, there'll be more advanced technology. How it'll be interesting to see where this is going in terms of where are all the races at now. But it was also a way of dodging the Mass Effect 3 ending. If you jump 100 years in the future, you don't really have to deal with the ramifications of how that game ended, and therefore can just go, a new thing. Look, we're in a completely new time. It doesn't matter. So I could kind of see that this was potentially a clever move. And the whole reason it's called Andromeda is because they have the technology finally, basically, to send people all the way out of our little Milky Way over to Andromeda to colonize a completely new galaxy, which is an interesting story and place to take it. Then obviously it very much fell on its arse. I mean, we all know the story, animation issues, just we won't go into it because everyone listening will probably know. What I will say about it though is I did go and play it, and oh my word, is it unbelievably boring and has zero personality. I don't know whether that's down to the world building or the protagonist of, I don't know what they call her, but that woman. I couldn't even put my finger on what the problem was, but it was just like, I am so bored and do not give a crap about anyone I'm meeting.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap about the person I'm playing as. It was really drab. Which is
so
sense.
Weird for BioWare, because they're so good at, like, in the past, like, personality was the thing that they did well.
Yeah, so there was a lot of like things that just didn't make sense. The other thing about Andromeda is they dropped all the DLCs and support they were going to make for it. They basically just dumped Andromeda. It was left dead at the door. They may have done some fixes to make it playable and not look so horrific because the animations were all over the place, but it was basically dropped. They threw it away. So surely, and this is now going into what I would want from a new Mass Effect, surely Andromeda never happened and we're going to get a complete retcon. I think that would be the right thing to do. I do not think we should be having Andromeda 2 because that would make no sense. And I don't think we should be having a remake or a retry of the story. I think we should just pretend it didn't happen, move on. Mm-hmm. I kind of think that the brave thing to do would be to actually just go Mass Effect 4. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, this is dangerous because we've seen old franchises have a trilogy and then get built on and sort of fall by the wayside a bit, like Gears of War, like Halo, where they just kind of get stretched and they don't necessarily grow or add anything new in a positive way. What I think that the reason maybe that this would be a better decision, apart from the fact that Andromeda was a failure, is that we will immediately identify and be linked with that world at the time that we left it. Mm-hmm. You know, we could skip a decade or two. I think I am suggesting that we bring old characters back, not necessarily as playable characters, but we need a way to be invested, because as far as we're concerned, the trilogy happened and we need to find a way back into it, like emotionally as well as gameplay-wise. So I don't think the formula of the story doesn't need to really change that much from what they brought us from the original trilogy. I just think will feel connected immediately if it's kind of more linked to the world we already know. And I don't think they knew what to do with Andromeda when they jumped 100 years in the future and just went, right, here's the story. And that's a great basis. It was a great idea. But then they had no characters, they had no drive, they had no interest. The other big thing is one of the big reasons I think that BioWare and Bethesda have been going on a very steep downward spiral for the past decade. It's the abandonment of proper RPGs. Mm-hmm. These companies seem to be scared of the mainstream appeal of actual technical gameplay elements that add depth. Mass Effect was never like the deepest RPG. It was never about having Dungeons and Dragons style stats like strength and all that sort of thing. It wasn't that deep, but it definitely had elements that made you invest in each character and make sure that you were investing in the right places and all that sort of thing, as well as all the chat options that we know and love from Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So I want to see a proper return with proper RPG elements again, because Mass Effect 3 was definitely the one where they kind of just dropped it to make it more shootery. With that said, Mass Effect 3 had the most satisfying shooting mechanics. So I want to see, like Bungie have done, moving away from Halo and making Destiny and then Destiny 2. I want to see that move forward. I want to see that the combat is in the now and not looking too far in the past. Build on what you had, but make something new, make something engaging, make something feel dynamic and fun to actually play.
So in terms of RPG systems, how does that sort of how does that produce itself in Mass Effect, do you think?
Well, I wouldn't know exactly what I would want in terms of how it would look, all that sort of thing. I don't need the big junction system from Final Fantasy 8 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like trees that are more dynamic and actually make you make decisions. and actually have an effect. Things to do with speech and bartering and personality that actually change the trees and make them more dynamic or less so, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, so not necessarily numbered character attributes. That's not necessarily what you're saying. But I suppose what they have done in the past is more like character classes and that sort of thing, like someone who specializes. I can't remember what the sort of magic is called in Mass Effect.
Adept, I think.
Yeah, that's it. So you have those different classes and that sort of thing. So I guess just leaning into that sort of stuff again.
Yeah, just lean to more RPG elements and bring them back, because people love RPGs, and I don't understand why these two big companies, developers in particular, have just sort of slowly abandoned them and tried to pull the wool over our eyes by just doing a shitty tree that gives you no choice.
I think it's like you said, it's aiming for the mainstream and thinking that the deeper RPG elements put off more casual gamers, because all casual gamers like is shooting things or hitting things. So, but actually you're alienating the core gamers that originally fell in love with the series, and the more casual gamers aren't interested because they see it gets reviewed poorly or whatever.
But I think you'd actually find that there are more gamers that engage with these things than there are just people going in and pressing the shoot button, if you know what I mean. I think you'd actually have a bigger response to these things. I guess those are the sort of my main points. The last thing I'd say is that I don't think a cheeky Mass Effect 3 style multiplayer element would go amiss. I don't want deathmatch. I don't want Call of Duty Mass Effect. But they managed to pull off some weird sweet spot in Mass Effect 3 that it's good to know I'm not the only one that loved it. Yeah. Where there was a lot of extra time that you could put in and have fun with, and it was just like why not? If it's not going to detract from the main game and they're not being crunched by whoever owns them to get it out in time. Is it still EA?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But it would be great to have a really just fun, silly, satisfying element like they did in Mass Effect 3, because why not? But that's a cheeky extra. That's not really the main bulk.
Before we sort of get into my thoughts, just reaction to some of the stuff you said and talking about, EA as the developer. I don't know if you followed much of another EA BioWare game. In fact, their sort of last game, which was called Anthem. I don't know if you saw much about that. And how...
Yes, I remember the promo, and I looked at it and I thought this will be shit. And my prediction was right.
Yes, it was basically like you were basically like Iron Man flying around as in some kind of mech suit, and they were essentially trying to make Destiny. Basically,
I looked at that and went, this isn't going to work out. And surprise, surprise, I wasn't wrong. I don't know what made me think that, but I could tell this, because everyone was like, there are lots of like media and other things saying, look how cool this looks. And I was like, this doesn't look cool. This is going to be bad. This does not look good. Well,
from what I remember, a lot of people said it's really cool. It feels cool flying the little robot suit, whatever it is around. But apart from that, it was it was naff. And then, obviously the game turned out to be rubbish. But I do think there is still a part of EA that would want to have their version of a games as a service style game, aka Destiny, that sort of ongoing looter shooter platform style game. Yeah. And I think there is a slim chance that they might think, well, let's try and do it with Mass Effect, and have it as that sort of ongoing thing where it's not an online only game, but you run around with your little squad and that can be made up of your actual friends. I think there is a chance they will do that. I really hope they don't do it. But I think there is potentially a chance that they could.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I could see that working though, but it would very much depend on them whether it's good or not. I know that's a stupid statement, but as in I could see playing Destiny in the Mass Effect universe could actually be a very compelling idea. The problem is, and it's the problem with my sort of Mass Effect 4 idea, is that the main sort of storyline is the idea of a cycle of life loop, and the cycle of life loop has been broken. So it's like, where do you go from there? It is kind of the issue story wise, and then how do you sort of nod at that in a game of service thing? Like, how do you continue a followable narrative.
Yeah.
Because it's all about your interaction and the people themselves. If there's just littered with if it's just a place littered with NPCs where dialogue options don't really matter because it's essentially an online game.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly what I was going to say, in that why I don't think that will work, and what I want it to be is basically story and characters and connections with characters. It has to be the focus of a new Mass Effect game, and for me is the thing that I take away from Mass Effect as being the reason why I love that game, because it made me really care about characters, and it made those decisions when I had to either save one character or the other, and I end up picking Ashley. Like, it needs to make me really care about that decision and really think about it, and I just don't think that sort of situation would work in a games as a service sort of game, just because obviously if the other characters are player controlled, and like you said, NPCs are just people there like, here's my wares that you can sell. I just won't care as much, and that sort of I just think it has to be the same. Like, in a lot of ways, obviously, I want the story to be great whenever it is set. But for me, the thing that it has to nail is just producing really excellent characters with great dialogue, and then that's sort of my key element in the game, and then everything else obviously needs to be done well. But as long as they nail that, I'm sort of in. And like part of the reason why people didn't like the end of 3 was because the way they did it, all of these decisions that you had made across the 3 games, and that was also a huge novel thing in the Mass Effect trilogy, was that the decisions you made in 1 and 2 carried over. Like, the decisions made in 1 carried over to 2, and then 2 to 3. But then the ending sort of made all of those decisions irrelevant, really. So as long what they need to nail is people investing in characters and that investment paying off. And as long as that happens, no matter how the game takes its shape in terms of the core gameplay, that for me is the most important. And as long as everything else is fun and works, that is the most important thing to me. I think I sort of agree with you in that the gameplay of 3 was really good. I like that they added melee combat, because that was something they just didn't have, and it was sort of like...
Well, sort of. I mean, there weren't melee weapons, were there?
No, but you could do moves up close, and it was just weird that in the other games that just couldn't happen, which is just really, really strange. And I think they're going to have to, well, depending on if it goes back to the more turn-based elements that it had in 1 and obviously in KOTOR, which I don't think it will, because it's not modern. I wonder if they are going to have to sort of embrace the Destiny sort of gameplay, essentially, where it's just like, you're shooting, you have powers or moves, and then it's like hit the right thumbstick to melee. It's basically like modern shooter controls. I wonder if they're going to go down that route. But then if they do, how does that mesh and meld well with all of the RPG elements? But I suppose you look at something like Fallout 3, which does that well, I suppose.
Would you want this to be third person, like the trilogy, or first person?
I can't see it working. I wouldn't want it to be first person, but that might just be me, with the view of what 1, 2, and 3 were. I can't really. I also, because your character is such a huge part of the game and how you develop the character and you really embody this character you've created, I wouldn't want to see through their eyes in a way. I want to see them all the time. I want to get used to what the back of their head looks like and get used to what this person looks like. I think it'd be weird because obviously then when you go into the dialogue, you would pan out to third, I'm guessing, if you did it that way.
I mean, I don't mind. I, in a way, don't mind purely from a gameplay standpoint, whether it's third or first person. The reason this is a bit of a thematic point, but the reason why it worked in third person for the trilogy is because you're not playing as you are taking over a character that has a personality, exists, and therefore you are controlling them and you're controlling their actions, but you're sort of viewing them. You're not them in a sense.
Yeah.
You're living vicariously through them. When you're playing in first person, that makes it a far more personal experience. So for me, it highly depends on whether we're going to have a sort of new shepherd and going through their story, or whether we're building the character in a character creator and then going forward. If that is the case, for me, purely for the nostalgia and the way that the other ones played, third person is probably preferable.
Yeah.
But if we are creating a character, if it is first person, I wouldn't be angry.
No,
is how I would
and I do
describe
think
it.
that first person does bring a lot in terms of just pure movement and gameplay. Like it allows you to do a lot more with shooting mechanics, whereas I think third person,
Chest
you're
rolls.
often limited to the cover shoot sort of system, like your Gears of War situation, because it's just odd to, I don't know, it just limits your movement doing third person, but it feels more Mass Effect-y.
Agree.
So it's an interesting
Agree.
one. Like I definitely wouldn't complain about it being the same gun mechanics and combat mechanics as Destiny, set in the Mass Effect world with all of the dialogue and character stuff we love. Don't get me wrong, that sounds like a great game, but I just the thought of being in first person and then pulling out to third person to have the classic Mass Effect dialogue feels slightly odd, but I don't know until I've seen it.
The one thing I would say about dialogue, it is a bit of a problem in Mass Effect. It never really bothered me, but it's the same thing with Fable. Is that the dialogue options would quite literally, and it's the same in Dragon Age. I think it would quite literally be really nice, good guy, hello, or basically walking up to someone and calling them the C word, as in it was never adult. It was never that adult, but like it's that idea of really good, really bad, or slightly sarcastic in the middle.
Yes.
There's not a lot of nuance in these games, and in Fable it was less so because you'd literally gain a halo or gain devil horns. And I think they're always so black and white, and it is like it's such a classic old BioWare and Lionhead Studio thing to do that. I don't know how. I think what was it? It was Renegade and Paragon, I think.
It was. I get what you're saying, and it does feel a little bit outdated now. But again, it's one of those things where, like, even though it's outdated, it is what you sort of buy into with Mass Effect. So, if they did keep it as the same system, would you see it as, oh, this is outdated, they should have updated this, it's too black and white, it's too it's almost like one text line is written in red and one's written in blue or something like that, where it's like, oh, this is so obvious what I'm doing? Or is that like part of the charm of it?
It's part of the charm in terms of I've done my good playthrough, I'm now going to do a Renegade playthrough just to see the dialogue options, because like it can be funny being an utter arsehole, but it doesn't really matter in terms of the end, especially with the Mass Effect 3 ending. It doesn't really matter in terms of people just interact with you a bit differently and dislike you a bit more. Like your end goal, you're not going to be cut off from it. There's no end game state where it just goes, you have been too nasty and we are not allowing you to play the rest of the game. Your save has been deleted. Do you know what I mean? It's not. No, it's not a thing.
I guess I just wonder how they implement changes to that, in that are the dialogue choices just a little less obvious, they're a little bit more vague, and they're a little bit less black and white, and it's a bit more of a grey area. Is that just the way they do it, in that they make them such polar thing? I don't really know how you do it.
I don't know. I don't really have the answer, but like I wonder if it is outdated, but I also, as you say, wonder, well, actually, is it just quite charming to have that sort of that idea that I'm gonna just, I just feel like being a dick and seeing what this character says, because it's funny. No other reason, but
I do just love that the whole concept of someone talking to you and you then being able to choose between 3 or 4 or however many options is just something that I love about the Mass Effect games, and is something that actually, if you think about the sort of landscape of gaming these days, isn't really about that much. So I would love to go back to a game that really does utilize that again. And then I've just sort of said another option, not necessarily one that I'm crazy about, but to avoid the Andromeda and the sort of Mass Effect 4 issue, would be maybe a prequel to the first one, and it's more about the discovery of the technology and how that takes shape, and you could even set it on Earth before the technology is discovered, but obviously that takes away a lot of the sort of spacey element. I mean, it could be set just as things started kicking off, and it's more about like meeting alien races for the first time, and alien races meeting humans for the first time. Could be quite an interesting concept, but doesn't necessarily have much legs on it in terms of further games.
It would solve the issue I brought up earlier about the whole life cycle, big universal life cycle thing, as in you don't have to bring you don't necessarily have to bring that up because they wouldn't know yet. So you'd kind of solve that issue of the existentialism of there's this world-ending force that is resetting the universe that has just been stopped.
Yeah.
So what happens now, and how do we reference it? So you sort of, that would also be a way of bringing you back into that world where we remember it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
If you know what I mean. The problem, so I'd be quite up for it being a prequel, but I think the problem would arise from, I think, because we know all the races already, and we kind of, you know what I mean? We've already met them. I feel like every time you bump into a new race, if they did it that way, it would feel very contrived. I think it would be hard to write that really organically and to feel really like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, it's Turians. I love the Turians. Do you know what I mean? And doing that in a way that doesn't feel really dumb and clumsy.
I get that. I hear
and
that.
Also, another great thing about Mass Effect was the politics, actually. But it wasn't crappy episode 1, 2, 3 Star Wars politics where it was like they wouldn't stop talking about boring stuff. But like that it was that thing of
the Trade Federation.
The Trade Federation, yeah, all that rubbish. But like, it was that thing of humans have been accelerated, tens of thousands of years technology-wise, and are now on a completely, literally, not just on a world stage, on a universal stage, and trying to make their stamp and make their mark, become part of the council, become a race that has a say in, I want to say the world, but it is, that galaxy.
Yeah.
And that was like an incredible backdrop that was constant and really was felt throughout the whole thing. So we'd be starting at square one if it was a prequel of, our ships probably look like rust buckets that are barely just getting through because we've just learned how to utilize Mass Effect engines and there's all this technology. And being humans, we'd see this as some grand achievement, and we'd be full of beaming with pride, meet all these alien race, and like, what do? Walk in and go, right, we'll take it from here. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there could be a really cool, like, political story of how that happens, but it could equally be really boring, and meeting all the races, I think, will just be really contrived and clumsy.
Yeah, I think if it was that, in that, like, each mission is, now we're going to meet this lot, now we're going to meet this lot, that would be rubbish. But if it was sort of done well, it could be quite fun, and maybe they challenge your expectations about, those sort of preconceived notions of what each race is like and that sort of thing. But yeah, I just thought that's potentially a way of solving some of the issues in terms of,
Andromeda,
people's hang-ups about the end of 3 and Andromeda, just set it before all of that. But I think it's just such a difficult, because calling it Andromeda 2, people are going to be like, oh, well, fuck that, I don't want to dive back into that shit show. Yeah, and calling it Mass Effect 4, it's like, well, we've got the trilogy, and that was a really good trilogy, so why would you do more? Which we've seen so much of, like you said. So it's really, really hard. I actually wonder if they're just going to do, again, just a new name, so as in Mass Effect something, or I would love to see Mass Effect 4, just because that is such a sign, like they've done with Crash Bandicoot 4. It's such a, like, no, this is a continuation, not just in storyline, but it is very much the ethos of it, and it is very much at its core the same as 1, 2, and 3. So that's a statement, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But it'll be
definitely
interesting
for them.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they literally act as if Andromeda never happened.
So I think, as a sort of sum up.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before we sum up, we've had an email from my friend Luke that I'll quickly read out. Because he was also a fan of Mass Effect, so has chimed in, and he says, "Hi guys, love the work you guys put out there. Keep up the cracking content." Thank you very much, buddy. I honestly believe that a great thing to see next in Mass Effect series would be further exploration of the rich world they've already established. I think we're all in agreement there. The universe, the places, the races, and the characters are filled with so much life that to revisit them from a different perspective, from Space Jesus / Satan, would be a real treat. Right, he's referring to the sort of Paragon Renegade end of Mass Effect. You're literally God or the devil.
Exactly.
Whether seeing the initial contact, I mean, we've just talked about this. I haven't read this email, genuinely. Whether seeing the initial contact wars between Turians and humans, or the Rachni wars from the perspective of the council races, perhaps on a smaller scale, and focusing power struggles within Omega, there is so much potential for the universe, which still feels largely untapped. An idea I personally love would be an LA Noir style game. Oh, He's being a little bit tongue in cheek here, if I know Luke, because we both came up with the best idea for a different Mass Effect game that's an offshoot.
Yeah.
Bear with us here. I forgot we had this discussion.
Okay.
So this is a separate thing. Let me save that for a second. So basically, he's saying, let's have less of the literally Jesus, literally Satan sort of, dark or light stuff. More of the same of the rich races and worlds and stuff we love. And then in terms of what we were saying, is it a prequel? Is it 4? Are we carrying on with Andromeda, or are we dumping it?
Yeah.
He's bringing up more specific things that are within the trilogy. So the Rachni Wars and there was the initial contact wars between Turians and humans.
Yeah, and that's fascinating.
That could be great. I hadn't thought about that specifically because, of course, we've said, I'd be really clumsy because it'd be like, oh, hello, I'm a Turian. Lovely to meet you. Tell me about your race. Yeah. Whereas actually, it's true that in the lore, there was initially just war broke out. But why did war break out? Did they immediately just see something they didn't recognize and shoot? Like, what happened?
Exactly.
So, should we do a little sort of summary and let's complete this Venn diagram, and where's the middle ground?
Oh, God, where is the center of those circles? I think it's sort of the most obvious point, and again, one that Luke said is that we just want it to be more about, we want it set in the same universe as 1, 2, and 3, but continue that vein of exploration. Maybe less of the very slow Mako driving around an unexplored planet. Maybe less of that.
That'd be
great. Just more of that, going to new places, meeting races, meeting these characters that are full of personality and that you just love talking to and finding more out about. More of that.
Yeah. I think the core is the world, the characterization, and the dialogue that you have is a huge chunk of Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So I think we agree there. I want a return to the sort of more somewhere between Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2 RPG elements to bring in, more customization and more deeper sort of integration into your party and how you actually level up and manage. I want more of that.
Definitely. I just feel like the more tactical approach to combat just lends itself more to the tactical approach to like conversations, and I just feel like it lends itself a bit better to it, because I feel like if you spend so long choosing so carefully the way that you interact with people and choosing the way your character acts to then suddenly just smack a trigger and it be really easy to like get through fights, I just feel like it doesn't really feel like it's two sides of the same coin. I'd agree with you, and I just would love more RPG elements, I think.
I think we've said the same thing as well, just that Mass Effect 3 definitely had the most satisfying shooting mechanics in terms of actually physically playing it. But we'd like that back, but obviously perhaps a more modernized version, preferably in third person, I think.
Preferably, although I would be interested to see how they would do a first person, because shooting in first person often does just feel better.
So I guess the big question, and I'm gonna get you to answer this first, is prequel, sequel, or completely new game, sequel to Andromeda, or a remake of Andromeda?
Wow.
Or
okay.
Prequel to Andromeda.
I think the most likely is an Andromeda 2.
Really? I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it's the most. I just think it's like I can see them feeling like they have a point to prove, and that's the way they do it. Which I would hate, but I can see that happening.
I really hope that doesn't come to fruition.
I don't know. I love Shepard, and I love the character of Shepard. I think I want Mass Effect 4, but I just don't know what that means yet. I think a prequel could be the most interesting, but I think we've sort of raised enough points why it could be a bit too on the nose and a bit too contrived. Yeah, but I think the prequel done right could be really interesting. But I think I want 4 the most.
Not a game of service.
I think that's the hardest to do, though. Oh, what's that?
Game of service was the other option I forgot.
I don't want that, because I don't think a game of service will allow me to get what I want out of it, which is a really well done story with really strong characters.
Okay. I think the hardest thing to do would actually be a prequel, because you'd have to rebuild the world and sort of go back in time in that very world that we know convincingly enough to make you invest in it, because you're using the universe and the world that we already know and love, reversing time, and then you have to believe that happened when you're playing it. I think that is potentially harder than doing a 4 and kind of how's the world rebuilding after this cataclysmic event. Like that, I'm not saying it's as easy as it writes itself, but if you've got gameplay down, you can sort of write the characters in the story and like, do you know what I mean? I don't want to say do more of the same, but you could do more of the same and like we'd be satisfied. I think a prequel would be the hardest thing to do. And I think based on this little nugget that Luke's put in with the contact wars and things, I think that's what I want.
Oh, I think it would be great. I think that'd be so interesting.
But I think there's a lot of things to nail, and I personally think that would be the hardest thing to do.
Because there's so many easy like things there for just like easy fan service. Like, yeah, you come into contact with the Turians, and like one of them is like Garrus's dad or something like that, and it's like, oh, that's cool because it's Garrus's dad. But like, there are ways that they can just make satisfying moments like that, and I think it'd just be the most interesting by far out of all of the story options. And it's like Rogue One. I love the Star Wars film Rogue One because it is just really satisfying to see how such a huge event came into being, and it sort of puts an end to like all of the speculation, which in a way is sad, but at the same time it's just great to see how it happens.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've kind of nailed what we set out to do in topic-wise. I think so. I think you're after a Mass Effect 4, so literally a post 3. How many years after are you envisioning this Mass Effect 4?
Well, it depends if...
2 months later.
Yeah, I mean...
10 years later.
That would be amazing. I think fairly soon after. Soon enough that they don't have enough of a time to sort of do a clean slate with like characters, because I would love to revisit some characters.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has to be pretty sharpish afterwards. I agree. If it's going to be 4, it has to be soon after. I think I'm leaning on the prequel for me. I think that's the only place where we perhaps
I'd happily take the prequel.
But I'd happily take 4. So maybe we're just in agreement here. Yeah. Anyway, a quick deviation from Luke's email. This is a discussion we had a long time ago. We had a great idea. Well, we think it's an amazing idea for a different video game. You might think it's stupid. So hear me out, because we had this discussion. So I'm going to read it directly from Luke's email. An idea I personally love would be an LA Noire-styled game based around CSEC, solving various space crimes, I love that, space crimes, and further exploring the Citadel's darker underbelly. This was originally based on Garrus and the fact that he used to work for CSEC. Mm-hmm. So you could be playing... it was basically Garrus LA Noire is the game we had in our head.
I mean, it sounds great.
So it's still a third-person shooter, but you're solving crimes as a CSEC officer and discovering like the dark underbelly and going more deeper into the politics and the idea of everyday life rather than a superhero space Jesus / space devil.
Does it have the really unsettling but convincing like facial animations that LA Noire had?
I mean, probably not, simply because he's a Turian and not a human being.
Well, that's great. I really like that. That is a very fun idea.
Yeah, it would still have shootouts and vehicle sections and stuff, but it's literally Mass Effect LA Noire as Garrus. That
would be great, because I feel like Mass Effect was also just really funny, and I feel like this could be quite funny.
Oh, it would be great. Anyway, he ends the email saying, all the best, chaps, Luke. Cheers, Luke.
Cheers, Luke.
But yeah, so there's a little extra idea for you at the end there.
A little after-dinner mint just to sort of settle your palate. I like that. That's great. Thanks for getting in touch, Luke, and thanks for continuing to listen to the show. Appreciate it a lot. Well, as Luke has done, please do get in touch with us about what you would like from a new Mass Effect title. They've released some sort of concept design images as well recently that you sort of have to get a magnifying glass out to be able to see exactly what's going on. But if people haven't seen them yet, go and have a look at them. And yeah, let us know what you would like even from the next Mass Effect game, whether it's a prequel, whether it's Mass Effect 4, whether it's Andromeda 2, or whether it's a new Andromeda or a Destiny style games as a service style game. There's so many options. We can't wait to find out more. There we go.
Goodbye. No. Thank you so much for listening. That email is pushingbuttonspod@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with any of your ideas and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, let us know what we're good at. Let us know what we're rubbish at.
Primarily Mass Effect related things.
that mainly. We're also on social media. We're on Twitter at PB Podcast UK. We're on Instagram at Pushing Buttons Pod. You can listen to us across loads of places that are apps. They're browser enabled. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. Go look for us. Listen to our back catalogue. It'll probably take you about 20 hours, so you can spread that out across a week, and it'll do you real good nicely.
You could spend your Christmas doing nothing but solidly listening to 20 episodes of Pushing Buttons.
That's your Christmas day sorted, fans. That's what you're going to be doing.
Nothing but eggnog and pushing buttons. The most sickly rich day of
Very
egg yolk
rich.
gaming chat.
You're going to be suffering from gout by the end of that day, not just from the eggnog, but also from the unctuous conversation that you're listening to.
What a lovely day that would be. Anyway.
Sounds awful.
It does sound pretty awful. And also a reminder that occasionally we might suddenly pop up on live stream on our YouTube, Pushing Buttons. It is not actually youtube.com/sweetbaby. That is a joke from the other week. Anyway,
No, we don't have a URL yet, so you're going to just search for us in the search bar.
subscribe.
And subscribe and turn on notifications, please. But that has been episode 20 of the Pushing Buttons podcast. Mark, it's been a pleasure, as per usual. I'm about to go and reheat some leftovers for my din-din-dins. And
Sounds great. I'm going to go eat burgers, I think.
Ooh, burgers.
Yeah, man, burgers.
Homemade?
Almonds. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so good. I hope everyone at home is having a lovely tea, and we'll talk to you on the next time. Ciao, Bella.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Stay well.
Spread love.
Not hate. That was lame.